The little girl tapped her spoon against the plate. 3 short, 3 long, 3 short. Nobody in the diner noticed except the motorcycle club boss in the next booth. He froze, recognizing the Morse code his late daughter used to practice. What he didn't know was that one signal would lead him to uncover the darkest secret hidden in a perfect American town. And he wasn't walking away. The rain hit the diner's windows like gravel thrown by an angry god. Jake wiped his mouth with a paper napkin and pushed his empty plate aside. Across the booth, Spike and Fox, his brothers from the Steel Vipers, were still working through their burgers. The 3 of them had been riding for 6 hours straight. This roadside diner off Route 9 was the first place they'd found that wasn't boarded up or burned out. "Coffee's like motor oil," Spike muttered, but he drank it anyway. Jake didn't respond. He was watching the rain snake down the glass, remembering another storm 3 years ago. The night Clara died, his daughter had been 12, full of questions about Morse code she'd learned at summer camp. She used to tap messages on his arm during dinner, giggling when he got them wrong. "I love you, Daddy." 3 taps, pause, 3 more. He'd never gotten good at reading it, and then she was gone. Cancer that moved like wildfire, and all those little taps became ghosts in his memory. Thunder cracked overhead, shaking the silverware. That's when he heard it. Tap, tap. Jake's hand froze halfway to his coffee cup. Tap, tap. It was coming from the booth behind him, a spoon hitting the edge of a plate. Rhythmic, deliberate. "You good?" Fox asked, noticing Jake's expression. Jake held up one finger. "Wait." He tilted his head slightly, listening past the rain and the low country music from the jukebox. Tap, tap. His blood went cold. SOS. The same pattern Clara used to practice. 3 short, 3 long, 3 short. Except this wasn't a 12-year-old playing games at dinner. This was someone asking for help. Jake slid out of the booth slowly, casually, like he was just stretching his legs. He walked toward the restroom but glanced back at the booth behind theirs. A little girl sat squeezed between 2 men, maybe 8 years old. Blonde hair pulled into a messy ponytail. She wore a purple jacket too big for her frame, and her face was pale, almost gray. The men on either side weren't talking to her, weren't even looking at her. They stared straight ahead, eating in silence. The girl's hand moved again. She picked up her spoon and tapped it against her plate. Tap, 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 tap. Her eyes didn't move. She stared down at her untouched pancakes like she was carved from stone, but her hand kept tapping. Jake's heart hammered. He'd seen a lot in his 46 years. Bar fights, bad deals, brothers bleeding out on asphalt, but nothing had ever made his chest tighten like this. That little girl was screaming for help in the only way she could. He turned back to his booth and sat down. Spike and Fox were watching him now, alert. "What's up?" Spike asked quietly. Jake leaned forward, keeping his voice low. "The kid behind us. Blonde ponytail. She's signaling." Fox's eyebrows went up. Signaling. Morse code. SOS. Jake's jaw clenched. "Those men with her, they're not her family." Spike glanced over Jake's shoulder, casual, just another diner patron people-watching. His expression darkened. "Guy on the left has a scar across his knuckles. Fresh. The other one keeps touching his waistband. Could be carrying." "They haven't said a word to her," Jake said, "and she's tapping that spoon like it's the last thing she'll ever do." The waitress came by, a middle-aged woman with tired eyes and a name tag that said, Darlene. She refilled their coffee without asking, then moved to the booth behind them. "You fellas need anything else?" Darlene asked the men. "We're good," one of them grunted. His voice was sandpaper rough. "How about you, sweetheart?" Darlene asked the girl. "You didn't touch your pancakes?" The girl didn't look up, didn't answer, just kept her eyes on the plate. "She's fine," the other man said quickly. "Just tired. We've been on the road a while." Darlene hesitated, and Jake could see it, that flicker of doubt in her eyes, the instinct that something wasn't right. But then she nodded and walked away, because people always walked away when something felt wrong, but they couldn't prove it. Jake had seen it 100 times. Not tonight. "What's the play?" Fox whispered. Jake watched the reflection in the window. The two men were finishing their food now, pulling out cash. They'd be leaving soon, taking the girl with them. "We follow," Jake said. "Quiet. No vests, no cuts. Not yet. We don't know who's involved." "You sure about this?" Spike asked. "Could be nothing." "Could be." Jake's voice was steel. "It's not nothing. I know what I heard." The men stood up. One of them grabbed the girl's arm, not rough but firm, and pulled her to her feet. She didn't resist, didn't cry, just moved like a puppet on strings. As they walked past Jake's booth toward the exit, the girl's eyes flicked to him for half a second. Just a glance. But in that moment, Jake saw everything. The fear, the exhaustion, the desperate hope that someone, anyone, would notice. Then she was gone, disappearing into the rain with the two men. Jake threw a 20 on the table and stood. "Let's move." The three bikers walked out into the storm. The parking lot was nearly empty, just their bikes, a beat-up sedan, and a white cargo van with mud caked on the plates. The two men were loading the girl into the back of the van. "That's a trafficking setup if I ever saw one," Spike muttered. The van's engine started. Jake swung onto his Harley, rain already soaking through his leather jacket. "Stay back. Don't spook them. We find out where they're going, then we end this." "End." Fox grinned, water dripping from his beard. "Brother, you just made my night a whole lot more interesting." The van pulled out of the parking lot, headlights cutting through the rain. Jake waited 5 seconds, then followed, his brothers flanking him. Thunder rolled across the sky like a warning. Inside the diner, Darlene watched through the window as 3 motorcycles disappeared into the storm. She looked down at the booth where the little girl had been sitting. On the table, next to the untouched pancakes, was a spoon. It was bent at the handle, twisted deliberately, like someone had been gripping it too hard for too long. Darlene picked it up, frowning. Then she noticed a napkin underneath. Someone had written on it in shaky child's handwriting. "Help." Section 2. The van's taillights were 2 red eyes in the darkness ahead. Jake kept his distance, maybe 200 yards back. The rain made visibility terrible, which worked in their favor. The men in the van wouldn't notice 3 motorcycles trailing through the storm. They'd been riding for 20 minutes now, leaving the main highway behind. The van turned onto Route 47, a narrow 2-lane road that cut through thick pine forest. No exits, no other traffic, just rain and darkness, and the yellow line disappearing under their tires. "Where the hell are they going?" Fox's voice crackled through the helmet comm. "Nowhere good," Jake replied. The van slowed, then turned onto an unmarked dirt road. Jake killed his headlight and signaled his brothers to do the same. They followed the van's fading tail lights into the trees, riding by moonlight and instinct. Then Jake saw it. The girl's face pressed against the back window of the van. She was looking directly at him through the rain-streaked glass. Her small hand came up, palm flat against the window, and she tapped. Tap. 3 times. Slow, deliberate. Not SOS this time, just a signal. "I see you. Please don't leave me." Jake's grip tightened on the handlebars. "I got you, kid," he whispered. "I got you." The van pulled into an abandoned gas station, one of those old places that had been dead for years. Broken pumps, shattered windows, weeds growing through the concrete. A rusted sign hung crooked. Marty's Gas and Go. The van stopped near the old garage bay. Jake signaled his brothers to cut their engines. They coasted to a stop behind a collapsed billboard about 50 yards away, hidden in the shadows. The rain pounded against their helmets. "2 men," Spike said quietly. "1 girl. How do you want to play this?" Jake scanned the area. The gas station was surrounded by forest on 3 sides. Only one way in and out, the dirt road they'd just come down. The van's driver's side door opened, and the man with the scarred knuckles stepped out, stretching. He lit a cigarette, looking bored. "They're stopping here for a reason," Fox said. "Could be meeting someone, or switching vehicles," Jake added. He looked at Spike. "You still carry that ASP baton?" Spike patted his belt. "Never leave home without it." "Good. Fox, you circle around to the passenger side. Spike, you're with me on the driver. No guns unless they pull first. We want the girl out clean." "What about the van?" Fox asked. "Disable it after we get her. Slash the tires. I want those men stuck here when we leave." They moved fast and silent, splitting up like they'd done 100 times before in bar fights and bad situations. The Steel Vipers weren't just a motorcycle club. They were brothers who'd been riding together for 15 years. They knew each other's moves without speaking. Jake and Spike crept along the tree line, using the darkness and rain as cover. The man with the cigarette was facing away, watching the road like he expected someone. The passenger door opened. The second man stepped out, talking on a cell phone. "Yeah, we got her. No problems. Be there in an hour." Jake's blood boiled. These men were talking about that little girl like she was cargo. He looked at Spike and held up 3 fingers. "Count it down. 3, 2, 1. They moved. Jake came out of the shadows like a ghost. The man with the cigarette barely had time to turn before Jake's fist connected with his jaw. The cigarette flew into the rain. The man staggered back against the van, and Spike was there, batten out, sweeping his legs. The man went down hard on the wet concrete. On the other side, Fox grabbed the second man's phone and crushed it under his boot. The man swung wild, but Fox ducked and drove his shoulder into the man's stomach, slamming him against the van's side panel. "Stay down," Fox growled. Jake wrenched open the back door of the van. The girl was there, curled in the corner, hands zip-tied in front of her. She looked at Jake with wide, terrified eyes. "It's okay," Jake said, keeping his voice gentle. "We're getting you out." He pulled a folding knife from his pocket and cut the zip ties. The girl's wrists were raw and red underneath. "Can you walk?" She nodded, still not speaking. Jake lifted her out of the van. She weighed almost nothing, all sharp angles and fear. He set her down and crouched to her level, rain streaming down both their faces. "What's your name?" "Rose." Her voice was barely a whisper. "Rose, I'm Nate. These are my friends. We're going to take you somewhere safe, okay? But I need you to tell me who those men were." Rose's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know. They took me from the park 3 days ago." "Where are your parents?" "Mama..." Rose's voice broke. "They said Mama's working for the sheriff. They said she sent them to get me. But Mama wouldn't do that. She wouldn't." Jake's stomach dropped. Working for the sheriff. That didn't make sense, unless... Behind him, Spike had both men on their knees, hands zip-tied behind their backs. "Nate, we need to move. Could be more coming," Spike said. Jake looked back at Rose. "Did they say anything else about your mom? About where they were taking you?" "Fairbridge," Rose whispered. They kept saying Fairbridge. Fox appeared with a can of gasoline from the station's old storage shed. He splashed it under the van's engine. Spike popped the hood. Jake stood, lifting Rose into his arms. "Let's go." As they ran for the motorcycles, Spike slashed all 4 of the van's tires. The 2 men shouted curses behind them, but they weren't going anywhere. Jake settled Rose on his bike in front of him, wrapping his jacket around her small frame. "Hold on tight," he said. 3 Harleys roared to life and disappeared into the storm, leaving 2 traffickers stranded in the rain at an abandoned gas station that would be crawling with local cops by morning. But Jake barely noticed. His mind was spinning on one word, Fairbridge, and one phrase, "Mama's working for the sheriff." Fairbridge appeared through the rain like something out of a postcard. White church steeple, main street lined with old brick buildings, American flags hanging limp in the storm. Population 4,200, according to the sign. The kind of town where everybody knew everybody. That's what made Jake's skin crawl. It was 2 in the morning, and not a single light was on. No late-night diners, no gas stations. Even the police station sat dark except for one dim bulb over the entrance. The whole town felt like it was holding its breath. "This place is dead," Fox said through the comm. "Or pretending to be," Jake replied. They rode through the empty streets until Jake spotted what he was looking for. A small motor lodge on the edge of town. Pavote Motel, the kind of place that charged by the week and didn't ask questions. Only 3 cars in the parking lot. Perfect. Jake pulled under the awning and killed his engine. Rose hadn't said a word during the 40-minute ride. She just pressed her face against his chest and held on, shaking from cold and fear. "You did good, kid," Jake said softly. "We're going to get you warm and safe." They rented 2 rooms with cash. No IDs, no credit cards. The night clerk was a kid barely out of high school, more interested in his phone than the 3 soaking wet bikers with a little girl. He handed over the keys without looking up. Inside room 7, Fox cranked the heat while Spike checked the windows and exits. Jake sat Rose on the bed and wrapped her in a blanket from the closet. "You hungry?" he asked. Rose shook her head. "When's the last time you ate?" She thought about it. "Yesterday, maybe. They only gave me crackers." Jake's jaw tightened. 3 days with these animals, living on crackers. He pulled out his phone and ordered pizza from the only place in town that delivered late. Then he crouched in front of Rose again. "I need to make a phone call to someone who can help, but I need you to tell me the truth. Do you know why those men said your mom was working for the sheriff?" Rose's eyes welled up. "Mama cleans houses. She cleaned the sheriff's house every Tuesday, but she stopped going. She said something was wrong there. She said she saw things." "What kind of things?" "I don't know. She wouldn't tell me, but she was scared." Rose's voice dropped to a whisper. "Then the men came to the park. They knew my name. They said Mama sent them, but I knew they were lying because Mama taught me the spoon code." "The spoon code?" "She said if bad people ever took me, I should tap SOS on anything I could find. She said someone good might hear it." Rose looked at Jake with those enormous, haunted eyes. "You heard it." Jake felt something crack inside his chest. This little girl's mother had prepared her for the worst, and the worst had found her anyway. "Your mom's smart," Jake said. "We're going to find her, Rose, I promise." He stepped outside into the rain and pulled up a contact he hadn't called in 2 years. The phone rang 4 times before a gruff voice answered. "This better be life or death, Jake." "It is, Mark." Deputy Marshal Mark Evans had been Jake's friend since high school. Back before Jake found the Steel Vipers and Evans found the badge, they'd gone different directions, but they'd always kept one line of communication open. When things got bad, when the system failed, they called each other. "Where are you?" Evans asked, suddenly alert. "Fairbridge. Got a situation." Jake told him everything. The diner, the rescue, Rose's story about her mother and the sheriff. Evans went quiet for a long moment. "Jake, you need to get that girl out of Fairbridge tonight." "Why?" "Because I've been tracking something for 6 months. Kids disappearing from small towns along Route 9. Always labeled runaways. Always from single-parent homes. Files go missing from the system. Reports get buried. I thought I was losing my mind until I found a pattern." Jake's grip tightened on the phone. "What pattern?" "Fairbridge is at the center of it. 4 kids gone last year. The local police say they ran away, but I pulled traffic cam footage from the highway. None of those kids ever left town. They vanished inside Fairbridge." "Who's covering it up?" "That's the problem. It goes high. Sheriff's office, county services, maybe higher. I've been trying to build a case, but every time I get close, evidence disappears. Witnesses change their stories. One family that kept pushing moved away overnight." Evans paused. "Jake, if that girl's mother saw something at the sheriff's house, she's either dead or hiding or being used as bait. Those men who grabbed Rose, they wanted her for a reason. Could be leverage to keep the mother quiet." Jake looked back at the motel room where Rose sat wrapped in blankets, probably the first time she'd felt safe in 3 days. "I need names, Evans. Who in Fairbridge can I trust?" "Nobody. That's what I'm telling you. The sheriff's cousin runs some kind of private foster operation. Gets state funding, looks clean on paper. But I've never seen a kid come out of that place. Not one." "Where is it?" "Old farm outside town. Carver Road. But Jake, listen to me. You can't just storm in there. These people are connected. They'll bury you and the girl both." "Then what do you suggest?" Evans was quiet for a moment. "Give me 48 hours. I'll drive down, bring federal backup. We do this right. We do this clean." "Rose's mother might not have 48 hours. "She definitely won't have any time if you're dead. Promise me you'll sit tight." Jake looked at the rain falling in sheets, washing over this quiet little town that hid monsters behind its white picket fences. "I'll wait," he lied. "But Evans, if something happens, you make sure this story gets out, all of it." "Nothing's going to happen. Just stay low." Jake hung up and walked back inside. Spike and Fox were waiting. "Well?" Fox asked. "We're in the middle of something bigger than 2 traffickers," Jake said. "This whole town's dirty." Outside, a police cruiser drove slowly past the motel, spotlights sweeping across the parking lot. It stopped on the 3 motorcycles parked under the awning. Then it drove away, but Jake had seen the driver's face in the light, the Fairbridge sheriff himself, and he'd been smiling. Morning came gray and cold. Jake stood at the motel window, watching Fairbridge wake up. People walked their dogs. A mail truck made its rounds. Everything looked normal. That was the problem. Behind him, Rose slept, curled up on the bed, still wearing her purple jacket. She'd barely touched the pizza last night. Spike was asleep in the chair by the door, and Fox had taken first watch outside. Jake's phone buzzed, a text from Evans. "Don't do anything stupid. Too late for that." He stepped outside where Fox was smoking by the bikes. "We need a cover story," Jake said. "That sheriff saw our bikes. He's going to start asking questions." Fox crushed his cigarette under his boot. "What did you have in mind?" "We're a charity. The Steel Vipers run a program for at-risk youth. We travel around to small towns, do fundraisers, talk to kids about staying in school." Jake pulled out his phone and started typing. "I'm making a website right now. Takes 20 minutes. "You think they'll buy it?" "They'll have to check us out first. That buys us time." Jake looked at the quiet street. "We split up. You and Spike stay with Rose. Keep her out of sight. I'll go into town, play the Good Samaritan, ask about community centers, schools, places we can do an event. And while I'm playing charity worker, I'm finding out everything I can about the sheriff's cousin and that foster home. By 10, Jake had transformed. He'd changed into a clean black shirt with the Steel Vipers logo, a viper coiled around a motorcycle wheel. He'd printed makeshift flyers at the motel's business center. Steel Vipers Youth Outreach, keeping kids safe 1 mile at a time. The irony wasn't lost on him. His first stop was Fairbridge Public Library, a small brick building with flowers out front. The librarian was a woman in her 60s with kind eyes and reading glasses on a chain. "Good morning," Jake said, laying on the charm. "I'm Jake Turner with the Steel Vipers Motorcycle Charity. We're passing through and wanted to see if we could organize a community event. Talk to kids about making good choices." The librarian's face lit up. "Oh, how wonderful. We don't get many programs like that here. I'm Eleanor." "Pleasure to meet you, Eleanor." Jake handed her a flyer. "We do this all over small towns that get overlooked. We find kids in places like Fairbridge sometimes need someone to talk to, someone who's made mistakes and learned from them." "That's beautiful work." Eleanor studied the flyer. "You should speak with Principal Carter at the elementary school, and maybe with the county services office. They handle youth programs." "County services? Great idea." Jake pulled out a notepad, playing the part. "Where would I find that office?" "Oh, it's on Maple Street, just past the sheriff's station. Ask for Susan Carver." Jake's pen stopped. "Carver. She's the sheriff's cousin?" "Wonderful woman. Runs a private group home for troubled children. Really turned things around for so many kids." Eleanor leaned in conspiratorially. "Between you and me, some of those children come from very difficult situations. Susan takes them in when nobody else will." "Sounds like a saint," Jake said, his smile not reaching his eyes. "She is. The state gives her funding, but she puts in so much of her own money, too. Her farm is beautiful. Acres of land where the kids can run and play. Much better than those awful government facilities. I'd love to meet her. Compare notes on how we help kids." Eleanor wrote down an address. "Tell her I sent you. She's always looking for community partners." Jake's next stop was the county records office in the basement of the town hall. A bored clerk named Eddie, maybe 25, nose ring, band t-shirt under his work polo, sat at a computer playing solitaire. "Help you?" Eddie asked without looking up. "Yeah, I'm trying to find information about youth services in the area, specifically foster programs. You a lawyer or something?" "Nope. I run a motorcycle charity looking to partner with local programs." Eddie finally looked at him, saw the leather vest, the tattoos, the Steel Vipers patch. His expression shifted from bored to interested. "That's actually pretty cool. Foster stuff would be under county services. Most of it's run through the Carver home." "I keep hearing that name." "Yeah, Susan Carver. She's had the contract for like 5 years. Private foster care for kids who can't be placed elsewhere." Eddie clicked around on his computer. "Says here she's currently housing 8 children, ages 6 to 15. That's a lot of kids. State pays her $70,000 per kid per year." Eddie whistled. "Nice work if you can get it." Jake did the math. Over $500,000 a year. Must be some operation. "State checkup on these kids? Quarterly visits, reports, all that?" Eddie lowered his voice, glancing toward the door. "My girlfriend works at the school. She says none of those foster kids ever actually show up to class. Susan claims she homeschools them, which is legal, but nobody ever sees them in town. Not at the store, not at the park, nowhere." "That seems strange to you?" Eddie shrugged. "Above my pay grade, but yeah, it's weird. Last year, this couple was asking questions about their niece who got placed there. They wanted to visit her. Susan kept making excuses. The girl was sick or away at therapy or whatever. The couple got pushy. Then one day they just stopped asking, moved away." Jake felt ice in his veins. "You remember the couple's name?" "Ramirez. I think they had a house on Oak Street. It's empty now." Jake pulled out his phone and pretended to take notes. This is really helpful, Eddie. Hey, random question. You have any way to see property records? Like what land Susan Carver owns? Sure, that's public. Eddie typed for a minute. Okay. She's at the main farmhouse on Carver Road, 43 acres. Then she's got… That's weird. What? She also owns a property on the county line. Old meat processing plant. Been abandoned for years. Why would she need that? Jake's stomach turned. A meat processing plant. Isolated. Built for processing. Maybe storage. Maybe storage, Jake offered. Eddie printed out the records. You want a copy? That'd be great. Outside the town hall, Jake stood in the sunlight and read through the documents. Everything looked legitimate. Licenses, inspections, state contracts. Susan Carver appeared to be exactly what Eleanor said, a dedicated foster parent helping troubled children. But Deputy Evans's words echoed in his mind. No child ever comes out. Jake pulled out his phone and texted Fox. How's our girl? The response came immediately. Quiet. Scared. Keeps asking about her mom. Jake stared at the address for the old meat processing plant. Then he texted Evans. Found something. The foster home is a front. They're not housing these kids. They're moving them. Need you here now. 3 dots appeared. Then, already on my way, 6 hours out. Do not move on that property alone. Jake looked up at the perfect blue sky, the quiet town, the American flag snapping in the breeze outside the sheriff's station. A man stood in the station window watching him. Sheriff Lawson, still smiling. Jake smiled back and walked toward his motorcycle, but his hand was already reaching for the gun hidden under his vest. Jake made it back to the motel by noon. Spike met him at the door, expression dark. We got a problem. Inside, Fox was at the window with binoculars. Rose sat on the bed, clutching the blanket around her shoulders. She looked even smaller in daylight. What happened? Jake asked. Fox pointed out the window. Black SUV's been circling the block for the last hour. Tinted windows, government plates. Evans? Too early. He said 6 hours. Jake's phone rang. Evans, tell me you're already here, Jake said. I'm 4 hours out. But Jake, we have a major problem. I just got word from my office. The FBI received an anonymous tip this morning about a motorcycle gang trafficking children through small towns along Route 9. Jake's blood went cold. What? They described the Steel Vipers specifically. 3 members riding Harleys. Said you snatched a girl from Fairbridge and are planning to move her across state lines. That's insane. We rescued her. I know that. But here's where it gets worse. The tip included photos. You, Spike, and Fox at that diner last night. Another photo of you carrying Rose out of the van at that gas station. They're making you look like the traffickers. Jake's mind raced. The sheriff. He's setting us up. It's more than the sheriff. I did some digging on Susan Carver's operation. Over the last 3 years, there have been reports of another motorcycle club in the area, the Black Crows. They've been seen escorting white vans between Fairbridge and 3 other towns. Local cops wrote it off as gang activity, but now I'm thinking those vans were carrying kids. The Crows are in on it. I don't think so. I think they're being used, just like you. The sheriff hires them to escort private transport for what they think is witness protection or something legitimate. They do the job, take the money, and never ask questions. But if this operation ever gets exposed, guess who takes the fall? The bikers, Jake said slowly. Not the sheriff, not his cousin. The motorcycle gangs. Exactly. It's perfect cover. When those kids disappear, the paper trail leads to the Crows. If the Crows ever get caught, the trail can easily be redirected to you. One anonymous tip, and suddenly the Steel Vipers are child traffickers. The real operation stays hidden. Spike swore under his breath. They're framing the whole brotherhood. Jake thought about the 15 other members back at their compound in Tennessee. Men who'd served their country, raised families, worked honest jobs. One accusation like this could destroy everything they'd built. "How many people know we're here?" Jake asked. "Officially, nobody," Evans said. "But that black SUV watching your motel? That's FBI. The tip must have included your location. They're probably running surveillance before they move in. If they arrest you with Rose, you look exactly like what they're saying you are. Traffickers caught with a victim?" Fox stepped away from the window. "So we're screwed either way. If we run, we look guilty. If we stay, we get arrested for a crime we didn't commit." Jake looked at Rose. She was watching them with those wide, terrified eyes. After everything she'd been through, now she was caught in the middle of a frame job. "There's one other thing," Evans said. "I checked recent arrests. 3 weeks ago, 2 members of the Black Crows were picked up in the next county. Possession with intent to distribute. They were looking at serious time, but get this. The charges mysteriously got dropped yesterday. No explanation." "The sheriff let them go," Jake said, "after they agreed to something." "I'm betting they're about to do another transport job. Maybe today, maybe tonight. And if they think the Steel Vipers are moving in on their territory, they'll come after you." Spike finished. Classic gang war scenario. The Crows attack the Vipers. The Vipers fight back, and in the chaos, nobody looks at the real criminals. Jake walked to the window and stared at the black SUV parked across the street. Inside, he could see 2 figures watching, waiting. "Evans, I need you to tell me exactly where the Black Crows operate." "Jake, whatever you're thinking, those men don't know they're pawns. They think they're doing legitimate work. If I can prove to them what's really happening, we can turn this around." "That's a big if. The Crows aren't exactly known for sitting down to talk. Their president is a guy named Luke Carter, ex-Marine, did 2 tours in Iraq. He's not going to listen to you without proof." "Then I'll get proof. That old meat processing plant Eddie mentioned, that's where they're moving the kids, isn't it?" Evans was quiet for a moment. "I think so. But Jake, if you go near that property, you're walking into a trap. The sheriff knows you're looking for the girl's mother. He's probably using that location as bait." "Good. Let him think I'm taking the bait." Jake grabbed his leather vest from the chair. "But I'm not going alone." "What's your plan?" "I'm going to find Luke Carter. I'm going to show him that he's being used. And then I'm going to offer him a deal. Help us take down the real traffickers or go down with them when the feds arrive." "And if he doesn't believe you?" Jake checked his gun, making sure Rose couldn't see. "Then we'll have a very bad afternoon." Spike stood up. "I'm coming with you." "No, you and Fox stay with Rose. If this goes wrong, you get her to Evans. No matter what, that girl gets out of this safe." Fox nodded. "We got her, brother. But Jake, the Black Crow's clubhouse is on Ridge Road. It's their territory. You walk in there alone, you might not walk out." "I've walked into worse." Jake pulled on his vest and headed for the door. As he reached it, Rose's small voice stopped him. "Mr. Jake?" He turned. She was standing now, the blanket still wrapped around her shoulders. "Are you going to find my mama?" Jake crouched down to her level. "I'm going to find the people who know where she is, and I'm going to make them tell me. That's a promise, Rose." She nodded, and Jake saw something in her eyes. Not just fear now, hope, fragile, breakable hope. He couldn't let her down. Jake walked out into the afternoon sun, climbed on his Harley, and roared toward Ridge Road. Behind him, the black SUV pulled out and followed. And somewhere in Fairbridge, Sheriff Lawson made a phone call. "He's moving. Right on schedule." Jake was 3 miles from the Black Crow's clubhouse when his phone rang. "Fox." His voice was sharp with adrenaline. "Jake, we got hit." Jake pulled over immediately, engine idling. "What happened?" 5 minutes ago, 4 men on bikes, wearing masks. They came in fast, tried to breach the room. Spike took one down with a tire iron. I fired 2 warning shots. They scattered, but... Fox's voice dropped. Spike took a hit. Baseball bat to the ribs. He's breathing, but he's hurt bad. Jake's hands tightened on the handlebars. Where's Rose? Bathroom locked in. She's okay. Just scared out of her mind. Did you get a look at the bikes? Harleys, blacked out. No plates. Fox paused. But one of them dropped something when they ran. A vest patch. Black Crow's logo. Jake closed his eyes. There was the setup, right on schedule. Fox, listen to me carefully. That patch was planted. What? The Crows didn't attack you. Someone wants us to think they did. They're trying to start a war between our clubs. Jake, I saw them. 4 bikes, 4 riders, wearing masks, right? So you couldn't see their faces. Could have been anybody. Could have been the sheriff's men on stolen bikes. Jake watched traffic pass on the highway. Think about it. If the Crows wanted to hit us, they'd come with their full chapter. 20 men, full colors. This was sloppy. This was theater. Fox was quiet for a moment, processing. So whoever did this wants us to retaliate. We go after the Crows, they come after us. And while we're killing each other, the real traffickers disappear, kids included. Jake started his engine again. I'm 10 minutes from the Crows' clubhouse. I'm going to finish what I started. You get Spike to a hospital. Can't do that. Hospital means questions. Police reports. We're wanted men right now, remember? Jake swore. Then call Evans. He's 4 hours out, but he'll know a doctor who can help off the books. And Fox, move locations right now. Don't tell me where. Just go dark until you hear from me. You sure about this? No, but it's the only play we have. Jake hung up and twisted the throttle. The Black Crow's clubhouse was exactly what he expected. A fortified warehouse on 5 acres of dirt and gravel, surrounded by a chain-link fence topped with barbed wire. A dozen motorcycles parked out front. The Crow's logo painted 20 feet high on the building, a skeletal crow with spread wings. Jake stopped at the gate. 2 prospects, young guys in leather, arms crossed, stepped forward. Lost, old man? The taller one said. Jake killed his engine. I'm here to see Luke Carter. Tell him Jake Turner from the Steel Vipers needs to talk. 5 minutes, that's all I'm asking. The prospects looked at each other. The shorter one pulled out a phone, made a call, spoke quietly. Then he hung up and opened the gate. Hands where we can see them. You're not carrying inside. Jake unbuckled his gun and handed it over. Fair enough. They walked him through the gate, past the rows of bikes, into the warehouse. Inside was pure biker culture. Pool tables, a bar made from an old truck bed, motorcycle parts scattered everywhere. 20 men stood around, all wearing the Black Crow's patch. They watched Jake like wolves sizing up prey. At the back of the room, sitting in a leather chair that looked like a throne, was Luke Carter. He was maybe 50, built like a tank, with a gray beard and eyes that had seen too much combat. His vest was covered in patches, not just the Crow's logo, but military decorations. Purple Heart, Bronze Star. Jake Turner, Luke said, his voice like gravel in a blender. I know who you are. The Steel Vipers have a good reputation. So why are you walking into my house alone and unarmed? Because someone's trying to make us enemies, Jake said. And I don't believe in killing brothers over lies. Luke leaned forward. That's an interesting opening. Keep talking. 20 minutes ago, my men were attacked at a motel outside Fairbridge. 4 riders on blacked-out Harleys. They were wearing masks, but they left behind one of your patches. The room erupted in angry murmurs. One of the Crows stepped forward. You saying we hit you? No, Jake said firmly. I'm saying someone wants us to think you did. Someone who benefits from the Steel Vipers and Black Crows going to war. Luke held up a hand, silencing his men. Go on. You've been doing escort jobs, right? White vans moving between towns. You thought it was legitimate transport, witness protection, maybe private medical transfers. But it wasn't. Those vans were carrying kidnapped children. The room went dead silent. That's a serious accusation, Luke said quietly. I have proof. The girl we rescued, 8 years old, taken from a park 3 days ago. Her mother saw something at Sheriff Lawson's house, something that got her targeted. The sheriff's cousin runs a foster operation that's really a trafficking hub. They've been using your club to move kids, and when this blows up, you're the ones who'll take the fall. One of the crows laughed bitterly. That's insane. We never— You wouldn't, knowingly, Jake interrupted. But think about it. How much did they pay you for those jobs? Cash, right? No paper trail, no receipts. If the feds come looking, all they'll find is the black crows escorting vans full of missing children. Your word against the sheriff's. Luke's expression darkened. You're saying we've been played? Both of us have. They planted your patch at the attack to make me come here angry. They probably tipped you off that the Steel Vipers were moving in on your territory. They want us at each other's throats while they clean up their operation and disappear. If what you're saying is true, Luke said slowly, then we have a very big problem. We do. But we also have a solution. Warsom C. Jake stepped closer. I have a federal deputy marshal on his way here. He's been investigating this operation for months. If we work together, give him evidence, help him locate where these kids are being held, we can bury the real criminals and clear both our clubs. Luke studied him for a long moment. Why should I trust you? Because 30 minutes ago, someone tried to kill my men and frame your club for it. And because I'm standing here, unarmed, in a room full of your brothers, betting my life that you're not the kind of Marine who'd let kids suffer to save his own skin. The warehouse was absolutely silent. Then Luke stood. He was 6'4", pure muscle and scars. He walked up to Jake and extended his hand. Show me your proof, Luke said, and then we'll decide if we're going to help you burn down Fairbridge. Jake shook his hand. I'll do better than that. I'll take you to the girl who started this whole thing with a spoon tapped in Morse code. Outside, thunder rumbled. The storm was coming back. Luke Carter rode beside Jake through the darkening afternoon. Behind them, 6 more black crows followed. Enough to make a statement, but not so many it looked like a war party. They'd been riding for 20 minutes when Jake's phone buzzed. Fox. We're secure. New location. Spike's stable. Cracked rib, maybe 2, but he'll live. Doc Evans recommended came through. Good. I'm bringing company. The Black Crows. Fox was quiet for a beat. Please tell me they're not following you to kill us? They're following me to help us. Long story. Be there in 10. Jake hung up and glanced at Luke. The big man rode his bike like he'd been born on it. Smooth, controlled, dangerous. His crows flanked them on both sides, a formation Jake recognized from military convoys. These men were disciplined soldiers, not thugs. That's what made them perfect pawns. The new safe house was an abandoned hunting cabin, 15